Hey, what's up, guys? Josiah here with EasyCaters.com, and I'm here with your weekly review. We're actually going to look at a couple different things today. I'm going to look at day trades that I took yesterday on the stock market. Then I'm going to go over this week's weekly relative volume signals, as well as Friday's new daily signals that showed up at the tail end of the week there. And then to top it all off, we're going to look at some future signals as well on some of the major markets like the E-mini, S&P, Nasdaq. We're going to look at bonds, gold, some of the metals, and energies and so forth. So let's get into it. So anyway, so first of all, the intraday signals from yesterday. Couple of good trades we had. So SE, I was actually in this, and you can see here on the chart, I didn't get all of the move out of it, but you can see that I was in this from the very bottom yesterday and got this move. And then later in the afternoon, or later in the morning, I should say, we had another signal that I was not around for. I'd already left for the day, and this one led to an even bigger move and uptrended for the rest of the day. Now, this initial entry, had I left it working, it would have stayed in for the whole thing. So that was kind of an unfortunate miss there, but you can see how the relative volume kind of pointed out all of those signals and the important entry points for SE yesterday, intraday. And this was on the 5-minute chart. You could see it on the 10-minute. I think I took this off of the 10-minute. There's also a 10-minute signal there. Kind of a fluid pullback here. I don't know if I see any. Yeah, nothing really popped up there for re-entry. But yeah, so two very good signals on SE yesterday. I took one of them. The other one would have worked as well. BB&T, it had a nice clean signal on the 10. We had kind of a high volume showing resistance coming in, and then a really high volume as we pulled back to the moving average here, indicating that there was some support there. You can also see on the smaller time frame, we had this initial sell-off in the morning, arrested on super high volume churn, and you can kind of see some nice little signals throughout the day there as well, kind of indicating where the big orders are hiding out there. ATVI, I think it had a nice opening range breakout type of situation. Yeah, so we can see here on the 30, there's this nice indecision candle, high churn happening in the morning. And you can see on the 20, it kind of came to a head here. The 15, we got even better risk to reward ratio here. And so this one worked for, it looks like 4 hours, and the move topped out right there at that 4 times your risk multiple. And you can see on the 10, it came to a head, and the 10-minute pegged the moment of takeoff almost perfectly there. The 5-minute as well. CNC, nice fluid little pullback there. I took this trade as well, and it worked really well for the rest of the day. Just a painless uptrend for the rest of the afternoon. Let's see, Bank of America. And I think I mostly wanted to point this one out because we had kind of some sloppy movement all morning, and then we had this situation where it kind of cleaned up near the low of the day down here and gave this nice volume signal with good risk to reward back up to the high of the day. That's an important concept for people to understand, I think, is when you have already churned through all this range and then you get a nice pullback to where you become exposed in a way where the short sellers become exposed to a short squeeze in a way. And you've already cleared out all the resistance up here, so it's easier for price to move back in that direction, especially if you get a signal like this where you can see that volume has come in in that direction. Fitbit, not Fitbit, Fifth Third Bank. I always confuse that with Fitbit. We have a couple of good signals on the open, and you can kind of see here on the 20, it, put in the high, put in the low, put in the high on volume, and just kind of back and forth there, where the volume is showing you exactly the points where the big orders are placed to stop the price movement. This one had a nice 15. I wasn't in this, but you can kind of see some nice signals on the 10 and the 5 here, where volume is, pointing out exactly where the pivot points are here. It's, not every stock is clear, but it's really nice when you get these really clear signals like this, where there's not a lot of noise, and the signals, perfectly point out where your entry should be and everything. And so I always tell people, just to stick to those where it's really clear. And I have to tell myself that as well sometimes when I'm, bored in the afternoon, tempted to enter a trade that's not as high quality. I have to, mentally go through the fact that I need to, stick to high quality trades where it's just exceedingly or abundantly clear what's going on. And so, it's just important to be patient and wait for those types of signals. CVS, nice opening range on the 30 and on the 20. The 20 and the 30 put in this nice, well, especially in the 20 here, you can see where we had this attractive risk to reward. We had tried lower. Again, we tried lower on the 20, and then we triggered upward, and the 15 gave a nice risk to reward as well here. Looks like it got to let's see here. Yeah, it got to 2 R's that way. So it just depends on how you played it, but and then we have this other, yeah, and these are the ones that I really like to see, where you have volume churn establish a level, and then we go up, and it works for a little while. Then we pull back to that exact same level and put in volume churn again, and that is my favorite type of trade, especially in a trending situation. This is not the perfect kind of trend situation, but this is the exact kind of retest that I like to see in a trend, where we pull back down to that level or just above it, just on top of that level, retesting that as support, and then take off again in the direction of the trend. Nice little trend pullback on the 30 here on V. You can see here on the 20 there was a volume that kind of stopped us, or actually if you drill down a little further, you can see that volume is kind of establishing this level here around 162. Then we break above it, put in volume to stop the move, and then we again kind of pull back to that exact same level. And this took longer to kind of develop through the day, but if you use the time frames in combination, you can kind of see what's going on here. We have volume at the low of this, volume up here in the high, hiding in the smaller time frame, and that's the reason multiple time frames are important to use. And then we pull back down to this original level, and then volume signals the timing to get long again, up into the close there. So that was an interesting little signal. AMRN, nice little pullback, bottoming tail on the 30. Hourly had an indecision opening. Trying to see, this was pretty clean. I didn't see this when it happened, but this pullback would have been nice as well. And you can see it on multiple time frames here, the 15, 20, 30. There was actually an inside pullback on the 10-minute here during the opening range, and that one would have worked really well as well. So AMRN had several signals that I missed yesterday, and I just saw them in my review. Roku, just kind of some nice examples of this, back and forth. We got high, low, all put in with these volume signals. And then we had this opening range on the 15, especially where a break of that high churn indecision candle led to the move for the rest of the day. And you even got better risk to reward on the 5 here if you had taken this off of the 5. eBay, volume put in the low here of the day. You can see that. Had a wide range indecision candle on the hourly. The 30 gave you a little bit better risk to reward. It was a little bit noisy yesterday, honestly, but it has been giving us some good signals. And then today it looks like, or Friday, it looks like we, started picking up some volume in both directions where we're kind of just churning in general. And you can see how that turns out looking on the daily chart. That turns into so we've got a lot of noise on the intraday time frames. And what does that mean? Well, that means churn on the daily time frames. And so you can see that here on the daily time frame. It's showing up as we've got a lot of activity going on, a lot of volume trading, but we're not going much of anywhere because we've got just all this noise going on intraday. So that's what that means, and that happens on all time frames. So USB, I just noticed this. These pullbacks were really clean signals, and you can see it on the 30, the 20, the 15. This is not one I was in yesterday. It did get a little noisy on the smaller time frame, but it had some good signals there. If you when you see noise on one time frame, go up a time frame. That's kind of what the chart is telling you. If you see a lot of wicks, if you see a lot of volume signals on one time frame, go up a time frame and see if that clears the picture. CCL, this one had a really nice setup. So we have this inside 15 that was inside this 30-minute indecision candle. You can see it on the 20 as well. And then we had a 20-minute pullback here. That was another opportunity to get long, and showed up really nicely on the 5. DAL, Delta Airlines. You can see this nice little pullback on the 15, the 10. This was just, a beautiful little setup there. I do like to see the volume higher on the end. And you can see, so it was highest at the beginning, and then it kind of decreased a little bit toward the end of this pullback. But if you get down onto the 5-minute chart, you can kind of see that it waned off a little bit during the pullback here and then picked back up right before the trigger happened. So that's kind of what I like to see. Sometimes you have to use those multiple time frames again to see the clear picture. MNST, it's been working really well since that signal I mentioned the other day, the daily signal for a swing trade. You can't really ask for a better trade right there. That has gone straight to target. I think if you look back on my prior video from earlier this week, I pointed out this exact area for a target, and we went straight there. Now, I don't know if we're going to blast straight through that and continue higher, or if we're going to meet some resistance here, as I would kind of expect. But let's see what the risk to reward right now is on this one. Yeah, so we're right at 4 times your risk of the initial entry. So that's a really nice trade. And so I would definitely be taking some off here. MGM had a nice opening range breakout on the 30. And it topped out on volume, pulled back, and found volume support right here. So this one might go farther in the next few days. Trying to see longer term what's going on here, but yeah, so it looks pretty good, and it just broke out the day before yesterday on Thursday. Thursday put in a churn volume signal and a continuation type of setup, 1, 2, 3, inside bar like I always talk about, and And so yesterday triggered that and went, looks like to about 2 times your risk, depending on how you placed your stop. Yeah, it's just almost there. And I don't think that's really coincidental. People, when it starts getting really near that 2-hour target, people start thinking about exiting positions and so forth. So it topped out there about 2 hours in the first day. And, we'll see if it continues on in the next few days, next week. Morgan Stanley, high churn opening range on the 15. And these are really beautiful signals on the 15, or excuse me, the 5. Volume puts in the low here. And again, like I always say, I like to see, we put in a high on volume, then we pull back to that original level and put in volume again. And that's a really low risk, high reward type of entry. You have back up to that high volume signal, the highs of the day, as your risk to reward. So you can see here, this would have been 4 R's back up to this signal here. And coincidentally, volume signal right at 2 times your risk. Coincidentally, I say, which I mean not coincidentally at all. People exit part of their positions there at 2 R's, 2 times the risk, and then they exit more of it at 4 times the risk. And depending on if they held any more, they might be exiting back up here further. So that's how those work, especially on these range trades. But I like to look for this exact same kind of setup, but in a trend trading situation where the probabilities are a little bit higher in my favor. All right, so that is the intraday trades from yesterday, daily and weekly setups. Weekly, let me switch over to my long-term charts. We had a weekly inside setup here. This one may trigger next week for a long. This is on Nike. We are kind of churning or working our way through this inside signal here on the monthly. And so this past week was an inside signal on the weekly. We had a nice pullback on the daily, and we've triggered that. And so we're just kind of waiting to see if that's going to work. So this one, if this breaks above last week's high next week, then that could be a good continuation trade. GM, just a couple of little volume churn bars on the last 2 weekly candles up at this high of this range where you would expect it. So now this is another one of those situations. We've got a long-term range that's up here at this, we're up here at the highs of a longer-term range. And if we break above this, this could be good, but there's a lot of resistance here that it has to work through. So I would, if it does end up breaking that, I would kind of expect that to be a gap day where you don't really get a good chance to get long. Let's see here, NBL. So that was a daily pullback. Let me finish up with these weeklies. ABBV, just a volume signal down at the low of this range here. And you can see on the monthly, we've got these 2 inside candles with high volume churn. This is pretty good for and it's already triggered long. So we kind of have to wait and see if that's going to work. But this looks good that we have volume stepping back in here at the low of this range, saying there is support there. And you can see this daily has given support down here at this level multiple times. And even just Thursday, we dropped down back to that level in intraday, and immediately that was all absorbed by whatever buyer is down there. So that's ABBV on the weekly. Daily signals. See PSTG, a little pullback, meeting some demand here on the daily. We're kind of getting extended on the monthly. So let's see here. I can kind of see a level here forming where we're hitting into this resistance, and we've pulled back off of that. So the risk to reward is getting more attractive here. And so you can, perhaps get, your 2Rs, 2 times your risk back up to the highs. And so that one is becoming a much better trade. So especially if we get another candle here to kind of flush out and then pull back up into this range, something like that, then on a break above, that could easily get you a target up here to the highs, and then see if it can go farther on a trend continuation. Love Southwest Airlines. So we're on this monthly pullback. We've got some nice volume signals on the weekly, kind of showing where the bottoms and tops are. This is not as clear in here, but on the daily we do have this volume coming in at the lows of this range, this tiny little sideways range we've been in for a little while. And so this is nice to see some support here at this old level. We're back up at the top of the range, and so it's we broke out, pulled back, we met some churn here, some indication that there's support, so it could be that this is going to break back above. It's kind of hard to tell right now, so I kind of would just wait possibly for another deeper pullback here, and then see if we can get a trigger. But we did have a trigger 3 days ago, so that one already triggered. It looks like it already went to target, actually. That one got to 2Rs, so just have to see if there's enough support there at this new higher level. We know there's support down here. We don't know yet if there's going to be enough support here to sustain a move higher, but it does look like some people are stepping up there. AA, Alcoa again is putting in volume down here at the lows of this range. I just wanted to mention that. So this could be, if you're wanting to accumulate some more, this is probably a low risk time to do it. Let's see what else we have on the BSX. Had some daily signals here. I don't see. I think I was just wanting to mention that we had a little bit of a signal yesterday, but we're kind of up at the testing this resistance right now. This was the real entry down here. VZ. This is a nice little smooth pullback, putting in volume down at a prior level. This is the picture of exactly what I like to see, where we have a level, push up, put in a level, pull back, put in a level, and you can see there's a small level right here. And then we pushed up for kind of like a 1, 2, 3 trend continuation movement. Now we're pulling back to that same level here as major support, and we're seeing volume step back up. So that can be a good trade, but I would kind of want to see volatility disappear one or two more days here. So these are kind of wider bars, so I kind of want to see volatility dry out before I would want to take it back long. But it does look like volume's showing up there on VZ. Lin, got a little tiny pullback here on Lin with a volume signal off the highs. The risk to reward is not perfect yet, it doesn't look like. So I would probably wait a little bit on that, but it could as a more aggressive trade. So see, this is the trade that I like right here, where you've got more than 2Rs up to the highs. This one doesn't have 2Rs up to the highs, but it is a volume signal saying somebody's stepping in there. So if you want to be aggressive with it, then you can try to go ahead and take that in the anticipation that we are going to break this high and get up to your 2R target. NBL. This is another one of those small pullbacks. We've got 1.5 Rs up to the highs, so it's not perfect yet, but it does look kind of nice there with that, pulling back to this prior volume level. So maybe one more day here, and NBL might be good to go. Let's see. So on VIAB, kind of putting in volume up here at the highs of this range on the weekly, but we've pulled back off of that, and we're putting volume in on the daily off of those highs. And you can see here there's a little bit of a level from before. And so this has already triggered this original signal here. And we're pulling back, testing it as new support. So this would look good as a higher low. So we pull back. If we trigger back above this, that would be a higher low. And that could be a good continuation pullback trade. So that's the daily signals I saw. Quick review of some futures. I haven't done futures yet, and I know some of you guys are futures traders. I don't trade futures, but because of the volume is all pretty consistent, and so I like to look at those charts, and they do tend to give some nice signals. A while back, I posted a trade on gold on the Twitter feed, and that one worked really, really well. And I also kind of placed a trade, a longer term trade on bonds in my retirement account using the relative volume signal as well. So I've used these a little bit, but I don't actively trade futures yet. So it's something I kind of want to get into in the future. YM, we're kind of meeting some resistance up here. It looks like we kind of have this 1, 2, 3 on the monthly chart. You see on the weekly, we've got a volume burst here, and it's definitely hitting some resistance up here at these highs. Of course, we might just blast right through that. We are in a long-term secular uptrend, so that the probabilities are eventually that we would break that. But, we are hitting resistance right now, so it's yet to be seen. S&P, not as clear on that. We don't see exactly the same volume signals, but you can kind of see just a little bit of a volume pickup here at the highs where some people are selling. We had a volume burst, looks like on Wednesday. So yeah, I mean, this is not a place that I would want to be getting long, but a break back above here looks pretty good for continuation. NQ, so these are all type, kind of like continuation signals. The original, the good trades, as far as trades that I would be interested in, happened down here, happened right in here, and happened right in here. And there was a little bit of a pullback trade there that could have been done, but I like those deeper pullbacks with a volume signal. So this is not the type of thing where we've got a deep enough pullback to make it look really attractive for a long. And when we're combining the fact that we're meeting this high up here, I imagine there's going to be some retesting going on before we continue upward. So I'd probably just wait on a pullback for that. So Russell kind of has this 1, 2, 3 continuation pattern going on. We had this inside high churn bar last month. Saw some volume step in down in this pullback area. Perfect little volume signals on the daily showing the bottom of that pullback. That's one of the reasons I really like the futures charts. So that Russell, I mean, the trade's already triggered, but it's looking pretty good right now. I'm not seeing much on the VIX to say much of anything. There might be a little bit of a 1, 2, 3 forming there for a increase in volatility, but I can't really tell. I mean, it's meeting resistance here on that weekly, so that can go either way depending on where it breaks. So long-term bonds. So this was the one where I got long down here with this volume signal on the monthly, and I think I posted this on the Twitter channel as well. So this was the buy. Here was a pullback on the weekly where we had volume come in to support it. Not so much of a volume signal here on the daily until we kind of have low volume down here and then as we got back above, we hit churn and then took off. But yeah, there were a couple of good trades there, and volume kind of showed you where the bottom was potentially forming there. And so that was a good trade. Notes, I think this one is, yeah, this one's even cleaner in some ways. You got several volume signals going on, and a nice little continuation pullback here on the weekly. Yeah, I mean, several clean volume signals there showing where the levels are. But yeah, and this nicely pegged the bottom. You pulled down, reverse, inside, continuation, pulled back, tested the level, churn picked up again, and we took off from there. But it was super clean on the monthly, where you can just take it over the high of that monthly candle. Yeah, similar situation on 5 years. I kind of have a 1, 2, 3 on the monthly. A little bit of a pullback signal there. 2 years, yeah, similar situation here. So you can see on gold, gold had a volume signal down here at these lows, and that worked well for a nice place to add some gold to my position here, and I posted that for everybody on Twitter at the time, and a couple of people via email talked about that. We're doing this pullback, 3-bar pullback on the monthly, and we have on the daily down here, you can see there's been these volume signals at the lows, and those kind of, volume stepping up, saying there is support here, support stepped up here again. We tried to take off, and that one failed, and you can see there was some churn as we broke through that, and that was kind of a 1, 2, 3 continuation trade on the low, downward side, short side. And let me just point these out. Super clean signals here. I mean, can't really ask for better than that. Pegged the highs exactly right. But in any case, so we met a little bit of support down here. You can see it picked up a little bit down here at the lows, but not nearly as much as over here. So it kind of is yet to be seen. I don't think this is an ideal place to start trading until we see a clearer signal. Silver looks better, mostly because of this weekly chart. As you can see over here, we had a similar situation. Monthly kind of had a signal showing where the lows were against these prior lows on the monthly. Small uptick on the weekly charts down here at the lows. Then we had volume come in to show the highs up here. And now we've pulled back down. We're retesting this breakout level, and volume steps up again. And so this is definitely what I like to see as we retest an important level. And so this is a lower risk place to consider a long position. So keep an eye on silver. It looks better than gold right now to me, though I longer term like holding gold better than silver. Platinum, nice little signal in the last 2 days there. That has, or excuse me, 3 days ago, and triggered yesterday, and so that's already working pretty well. I've yet to see if that's going to get back up to these highs so you can get your 2R target, but it looks like it's at about 1 times your risk right now already. Yeah, so we had some nice signals down here at these lows, and I've been talking to my some siblings about trades on platinum. One of my brothers was interested in platinum, or just looking at different places to potentially store some extra funds. And platinum, so I'd kind of marked up this chart already, but you can see there's a nice bottoming pattern happening here, a nice signal, 3-bar pullback happened there. There's a nice monthly signal kind of indicating this low, and so that has been working pretty well. Palladium, we did have a signal 3 weeks ago as a pullback to this low here. This is a perfect little picture of exactly what I like to see as far as support being retested and confirmed, and then we broke out above that in a trend continuation. So Palladium looks good, but it's a little too late right now for an entry. Copper, we had support come in here at a prior, at the low of this range, but we've broken through that, and so this is turning into a 1, 2, 3 continuation on the short side. I have yet to see if this support here is going to materialize again and see if we can hold that level. But copper is not looking as good right now unless we can hold this low. If we can hold the low of this monthly chart, which is down here at the bottom of this range where this volume previously came in, then this monthly could turn into a 1, 2, 3 continuation up here to these highs. And so that's what I would be looking for. This daily support didn't hold, but we might, in the next couple of days here, put in some more support. We'll just have to see. Crude light, confused. So we got some signals here on the lows of this range. We came down and retested it here. Volume came in on this weekly, and we've come back up. We've got some volume that just came in 2 days ago, showing some resistance, and we've sold off since there, broken through this prior, and trying to come down to this level here, and we'll see if that holds at all, or if we're going to come down farther to these levels. I was actually just looking at gasoline, and that's the one where we've gotten some good signals up there, good signal down here, but now it's kind of getting noisy where can't really tell what's going on with the gasoline futures right now. Heating oil, nice little pullback there. But yeah, this one had a nice pullback on the weekly, and you can see it was the timing was perfect right there with the daily signal after we'd already started this nice 3 or 4 bar pullback on the weekly, coming back to this prior level where we did a 1, 2, 3 continuation. So that one worked really well. Volume has come in now on the weekly, and we're topping out right at that level. We'll see if we can hold these prior support levels once we get back down to that. Natural gas. So natural gas, you could see a couple of signals here on the weekly, and if I zoom back out to the daily here, you can see some volume signals that came in on this basing pattern, pullback pattern here. Before we went into this big move, volume came in on this continuation after we broke out, pulled back, support was coming in to mop up any shares that were being dumped or contracts that were being dumped, and then we took off there. And so now we're back down into the lows here. I'm not really seeing much to do here. There is, the lows are being put in on volume here, but this is not like a high probability trade because the trend is now downward. Lumber. Yeah, I'm not really seeing much there. We've got, volume pegged the bottom here on the monthly. And this prior bottom here, way back in 2015, it looks like, but yeah, nothing to do in the current chart. Downtrending, no obvious signals on any of the time frames that I see. Live cattle, nice daily signal there, but not in the right location. We're in a downtrend, so this is not something that I'm interested in taking. You can see here there were volume, as we retested these lows down here, volume came in and supported this move back up to the high of the range, and then volume on the quarterly kind of showed you the topping out on the monthly here at these levels. Nothing to do with it right now until we get back down to this area and volume starts stepping up again. Oat futures, not much clear going on right now. This was a retest of a prior level. That's kind of what you want to get in on. After we've broken out, we pulled back to it again to retest it, and it takes off. This one we pulled back down to the top of this range, tested, had volume come in, takes off, arrested on volume here at these highs, pulled back off. You can't see it very well, but volume stepped up here again. We took off, came back up to these highs, and now we're selling off pretty strong here. And then yesterday, it looks like we've kind of got a counter attack going on where whatever support was here before may be showing back up, but the candles are so volatile, it's hard to see if there's going to be enough support there or not. So we'll just have to wait on that one. Let's see. Lean Hogs had a volume signal that pegged the top there. Monthly signal is showing up as a topping tail with high churn. So this is looking like the top of a range. We'll just have to wait to see if it materializes into a reversal, or if there's enough support up here if we pull back a little bit and then continue above. But that needs more time as well. And wheat futures, down here at the low of this range, volume signals coming in, supporting price. Volume came in here at the top of this range. Nothing, the daily is coming in here down at this prior weekly low. So this could be a bounce back up into here. Yeah, so that actually does look pretty good for a bounce back up into the high of this range, or at least to the low of this range. It's not a great risk to reward back up to the low of the range, so might wait a day or so for that to see if we get another inside red candle over here, and if some volume comes in there, that could be good the next day. Corn futures, weekly dropped really far, it looks like, down into these prior levels here. No volume per range signal because it's just so volatile at this point. But it looks like we're in the right location here for kind of a range-based trade. So if we give it another couple of days here to stabilize out and give a volume signal, it might be good for a long. I would prefer to see something cleaner on this weekly where we've got these, sideways inside candles for the flush out happen. Now we're back up into that area again. If we can get, some kind of good volume signal here, that would be ideal on one of these cleaner time frames. But that's what I got so far, guys. So we've kind of gone over the day trades from Friday, daily and weekly swing trade setups on the stock market, and then gone through some signals on the futures as well, since I know there's some futures traders out there that like those. Forex is harder because of the non-centralized volume. This does work on Forex, but mostly on the more liquid of the pairs. And so you can see here, here's some signals on the daily time frame that peg the bottom of this pullback, bottom of this one, and but it is noisier because of the inconsistent volume that it's just going off whatever volume TD Ameritrade has their hands on. And so you'll get some good signals like this here on the Forex pairs, but then there'll also be some noise where the volume is just a little bit too inconsistent. So I would say on the higher time frames, like you can see on this monthly chart, the bottoms were pegged by the relative volume signals down here at these lows of the euro US dollar, and then the major highs. So if you're looking for the major trend turning points, then I think those higher time frames can kind of give those to you. But the lower time frames like intraday and maybe even daily are going to be a little harder because of that inconsistent volume. Anyway, I hope that helps. That's your weekly review, and we will see you guys on Monday. Thanks.